بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه والتابعين. So for those who make it this morning, thank you very much for coming, inshallah. And as you know, we'll be talking about how Arabic is a tool to study Islam. And inshallah, we'll elaborate on that. Khair. So since we are at Darul Qasim, inshallah, I would like to mention that recently Sheikh Amin has posted a short article, yet a very important article. It's on the website of Darul Qasim. I encourage everybody to go and read this article. And this article answers the question, the very important question, who is alim? Who deserves to be called a alim? Naam. And and also it went into the historic of how the function of ulama was, and how unfortunately that recently, especially after colonialism, the status of a alim has changed, at least when it comes to the public perception. Now, so before colonialism, a alim is regarded as a very highly educated person. Of course, they knew deen, but these people, they were basically in states like the Ottoman states or the Mughal state in India. These were the public servants. These people who were running the states. So these are very well-informed people about daily life. And in addition that they know their deen well. In fact, because they knew their deen well, because they were educated, that helped them and prepared them to move on to public service. And some of them, they become scholars specialized, obviously sometimes in ulum al-din, and then in the like tafsir and hadith, but others were doing what we consider now secular sciences, but that distinction was not in their minds. And it goes to ultimately define that a alim has to master the basics of 4 fields. And these fields are the Quran, the Hadith, the Fiqh, and the Aqidah. And there were clear benchmark that they had to meet. And for example, in the Darsi Nizami and the equivalent in the Ottoman lands and other Muslim countries, for example, when it came to Quran, they had, especially tafsir, a mark, a sign of that they mastered that. They had to master tafsir al-Jalalain of Imam Suyuti and Imam Mahalli. So that book was a benchmark. In hadith, they had to know Mishkatul Masabih inside out, the example that was given, that they can locate every hadith where it belongs and so forth. Now, and in fiqh, for example, in those examples, in those cases, in the Hanafi school, they had to master al-Hidayah. Then, of course, in other madahib, they had other equivalent books. And in the last one, it was the Aqaid al-Nasafiyya in Aqidah. But what we notice, and this is what relates us to our lesson today, that these 4 books, obviously, they are in Arabic. And so Arabic is a prerequisite for the mastering of these disciplines. Now, when we say Arabic, we have to do some clarification. What do we mean by Arabic? Is it the Arabic that people are speaking now in Arabic countries? The simple answer is no, it's not. نعم. And because Arabic, we mean, mashallah, the Arabic of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, the Arabic of the Quran, the Arabic of the Sahaba. نعم. The Arabic that is usually had the Arabic that survived until about 150 or 200 after Hijrah. Because people who came after that, the Arabic has changed substantially to the point that everybody has to study grammar. Everybody has to study sarf. Before that, they were perfect native speakers. They did not had to study nahu to speak well. Now, it's just out of the question. Because what's going on now in Arabic countries, people they speak at home their dialects. And every country, more than 20 countries, every country has its own dialect. And some countries have more than one dialect. And the bigger the country, the more dialects you will find. To the point that sometimes in big countries, sometimes the dialect of the north and the dialect of the south are quite different, to the point that they will have difficulties communicating. Okay? So the language changed, and languages do change. And the example that we like to give, just a couple of centuries, Shakespearean English and modern English are very different. So for Arabic, that's even more, because we're talking about 14 centuries. Now, what happened is this. First of all, the grammar. The grammar has changed. Meaning that, to give a comparison, it's like somebody who is speaking now Spanish and you expect them to understand Latin. They might understand some words here and there, but they will not understand full sentences. Now, the issue is, for example, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, they're all stemming out from Latin, but now they're completely different languages. They have different grammar, different rules, and so forth. They are related, yes. And Arabic dialects and the language of the Prophet ﷺ are like that. Because languages do change. So languages, even if they are isolated in an island, every generation has its own biases, its own phrases, and with time, they keep changing. Languages keep changing. Now, that's if they were isolated. If they were not isolated, for example, they are in the vicinity of other languages, they will start borrowing from each other. For example, and the vocab will start changing. And for example, if you compare Arabic now, let's say, for example, the language of Iraq and the Arabic of Iraq. Iraq is next door to Persian-speaking people. So there are a lot of Persian words in Iraqi dialects. And this has happening for centuries. It goes back and forth. Now, for example, if you compare, Syria has borders with Turkey. So there are Turkish words. So you're affected by the neighbors. Or sometimes Arabic spread, mashallah, to countries that had the language before, for example, like Egypt and North Africa. So what happens in those dialects, Egyptian dialects or North African dialects, there are a lot of words that are borrowed from the previous language that was dominating there. Now, so that's just the vocab. So the vocab is changing, the words are changing. But more than that, also the grammar. And what happened in Arabic, and it happened in many other languages, is that there is a tendency to simplify grammar. There's a tendency to simplify grammar. So Arabic Arabic meaning the Arabic of the Quran has a feature that is sometimes in English called declension, meaning that words, and especially the ending of words, they will change depending on their grammatical function. For example, in al-kitabu becomes al-kitaba, becomes al-kitabi, depending on what it is doing, and depending on whether it's a subject of a sentence, whether it is the object of a verb, whether it is the object of a preposition. So words will change depending on that. Modern Arabic doesn't do that anymore. And that's a big chunk of grammar that's gone. So everybody has to learn grammar, whether, no matter where, if they speak, even if they speak in Arabic dialect. Yeah. So that's number one. Other things that happened is, for example, in Arabic, so you have, like English, you have the singular and you have the plural, but Arabic has something in between that's called the dual, al-muthanna or al-tathniya, which is how you deal with two things or two words, meaning things that come in pairs. Now, so modern Arabic basically lost that. It has only singular and plural. The dual is virtually gone. There are a few exceptions like body parts. There, body parts, usually the dual is still used, and time, in like saying 2 hours, 2 minutes, yeah. But except body parts and time, that feature of Arabic is gone. Now, so what's left? What's left are some words, and a lot of words. So if you know dialect, it will help you, it will ease your learning of Arabic vocab. So that's number one. And even then you have to be cautious, because words, sometimes they change their meaning. It might have meant something in the past, but after centuries, people are using it a completely different way. And if you are not aware of that, you will be mistaken. That's number one. Um, that's number one. And also, so we talked about the dual. We talked about the grammar. Now, so what's happening now? What's happening now? So you have the dialects as they exist now. You have the language of the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Now, there is something else called modern standard Arabic. So it's a little bit, it is the common language, is the official language that people use now. Let's say if you hear Al Jazeera news, mhm, or there is something formal. So things that are formal, they tend to be in this modern standard Arabic. Now, modern standard Arabic is not a dialect, so that's how people coming from different Arabic countries can. That's what they in their speaking. The more these come from, they come from two different countries that's far apart. The more distance, the more they tend to use modern standard Arabic. Because that's what they have, they learned at school, that's what they have in common. So it's a common language. And this modern Arabic which modern standard Arabic is closer to the language of which is sometimes called classical language of the time of the Prophet ﷺ, in some regard. Meaning, yes, people, they study grammar. Nam. So it has the grammar is very similar. But the vocab, of course, is a bit different, because just for the need of the times, every time has its own words. And here I would like to give an example that in the so when you are studying modern standard Arabic, so you are learning words, naam, but you have to be careful that it is not the exact language of the time of the Sahaba. It's much closer, but it's not the same thing. And the example that I would like to give, because it's a misleading example in the sense that you think you know what you are reading, but you are not doing that. When you study modern standard Arabic, for example, how do you say car? They will tell you as-sayyara. Good. Now, but if you go and you're opening the Quran and you hear, or you see rather, the word as-sayyara, they don't mean the same thing. In the Quran, it means basically a group of traveling people. So be careful, because what you want to know first is the language of the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and its grammar, and its vocab, and its in all its aspects. Now, why I am saying this? Because sometimes some people, they think if they will go to college, they will study Arabic and they will be able to do tafsir on their own. Naam. Yes, because when you go to college, usually they will do two things for you. Yes, it will be modern standard Arabic, which the basic grammar is the same as the grammar of the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Basically the same, not 100%, but let's say 90%. So you learned 90%, good. But that 10% that's left, you still need it if you want to speak with authority, for example, when you are reading Quran or the like. So it's half the job in a way. And the vocab also is something that you have to be aware of. Now, Arabic is the language of Quran, the language of Hadith, and the language that scholars used to do tafsir and the text of fiqh, the text of aqidah, and the rest. Now, mashallah, the Quran talks about Arabic and how that language is used to communicate. Inshallah, one of the ayats is innama yassarnahu bilisanik. We made it easy through your tongue, talking to the Prophet ﷺ. We made it easy through your tongue, meaning through your language. And a number of times it refers to the Quran, like for example, Arabi bilisanin Arabiyyin mubin. So a very clear Arabic language. And obviously there is a hikmah, there is a wisdom that Allah Azza wa Jal chose that language to communicate his last book, his last message, his last wahi. So Quran speaks about it, and in fact, as a way of delivering a clear message, and it speaks specifically that it is the language or the tongue of the Prophet ﷺ. And obviously, this is just in a sense a side note that part of Iman is loving the Prophet ﷺ, and part of loving the Prophet ﷺ is loving his language. And so that's another reason to learn the language of the Prophet ﷺ. So Quran clearly refer to Arabic and emphasizes, inshallah, as a tool to deliver the message in very clear terms. Now, so there are some of you studied Arabic already, and Arabic has certain features that are, mashallah, very powerful, and it's probably one of the reasons why it was chosen to deliver the message of the Quran. So Arabic, we already mentioned that it has the feature of declension, where the same word, you just change the ending of the word, and it gives you extra information. So that's one feature. That feature existed in a number of classic languages, but most languages lost it. We talked about that the Arabic has the dual, which is not a plural, not a singular, and we talked and also would like in Arabic also what distinguishes it from other languages. It's a whole family of languages. In the old days, they used to call them the Semitic languages, Now they tend to call them the Afro-Asiatic language, because these languages, like Arabic, which is the biggest one, the native speakers live in Asia and Africa, and especially North Africa. So it has the triliteral system, which is very flexible. You can make a lot of words using the same three letters, the same radicals they call them. Now, so you can play with that to generate a lot of meanings. The declension also gives it a certain precision, where you are not relying on word order only, which the dialects do now, and English also does. So word order in English and in dialects are very important, because if you change the order, the meaning will automatically change. In Fusha, if you keep the harakat, the basic meaning does not change. The nuance will change, but the meaning does not change. Perhaps a dramatic example that I like to give to my students is, for example, الصياد قتل الأسد, which means the hunter killed the lion. This in the same order in Arabic and in English. So in English, if you switch the order, the meaning will be completely different. If you say the lion killed the hunter, is the complete exact meaning. So in Arabic, you can, if you keep the haraka, if you keep the declension, meaning the vowels, and you can still reverse the order, and the basic meaning is still the same. However, what you have changed, because you changed the order, you are just changed the focus. When you mention the line first, you are attracting the attention to the line, regardless whether it is the killer or the killed, and the opposite. So that's one of those things that gives Arabic a certain flexibility, that in addition to other things, inshallah, there is a field called al-balagha that inshallah deals especially with the nuances. Now, so we talked that the Quran talks about Arabic. The Hadith also, we have a number of Hadith that talk about Arabic, and one of them basically, it comes in more one version. Basically, it says that respect and honor in Arabic comes because it is the language of the Quran. It is the language of the Hadith. And also it refers to it that inshallah it will be the language of the believers in Jannah. So it has a special status. And as we said, we are talking about the tongue, the language of the Prophet ﷺ, and the mahabba is for his language is part of that. Now the Quran speaks about Arabic, the Hadith mention Arabic, and also the Sahaba, they will be talking about Arabic, and especially starting from the time of Umar radiallahu anhu. Now, during the time of Umar radiallahu anhu, Islam left Arabia. Now, there was the conquest of Persia, the conquest of Egypt, the conquest of part of the Roman Empire. So Arabic left Arabia. And Umar radiallahu anhu is known for saying تعلموا العربية. He was making it a point. Make sure that you master Arabic. One of it is in his letters. تعلموا, because they knew that, mashallah, new Muslims are coming. People, Arabs and non-Arabs, are intermarrying, and they are speaking languages which is a little bit, it's not as pristine as the language of the Prophet ﷺ. So they already are noticing that the language is changing, and we need to make sure that they know the language of the Quran. So those were the first signs. But it is during the time of after Umar radiallahu anhu, after Uthman, we'll go to the time of Ali radiallahu anhu. And it is the time of Ali radiallahu anhu that we have a clear examples of people saying that our kids' Arabic is not as good as ours. And there is a very famous story that is said that Abu al-Aswad Du'ali went, he's obviously at least a tabi'i, went to Ali radiallahu anhu. And basically he was concerned that his own daughter said is speaking Arabic, but she's making mistakes. And for them, that was this is if these people are going to do tafsir, we better make sure that they know what they are doing. So and there is a nice expression. So the story goes that she looked at the sky at night and she said, I will say it inshallah in Arabic, ما أجمل السماء. He thought she's asking a question, and he answered her, النجوم. So in his mind, she said, what's the most beautiful thing in the sky? And he said, the stars. But she said, no, that's not what I am saying. Oh, he said, no, you made a mistake. This is instead of saying ما أجمل السماء, you are supposed to say ما أجمل السماء. It's only the Dhamma and the Fatha shifted, and the meaning shifted. And this is his own daughter, and he's living with the Sahaba. And he said, we have to do something about this. And he talked with Ali radiallahu anhu, and he said, okay, we have to canonize grammar. People we have to make sure that they know grammar. And it is said that it is Ali radiallahu anhu that he told him, there is the first expression that basically tell them, al-kalamu fi'lun wa ismun wa harf. So this is categorized for them words, meaning in a systematic way. You are dealing with nouns, you are dealing with verbs, you are dealing with particles. And he said basically, and do it on this nahu, and do it in this fashion. Now for us, when we hear a nahu, we understand grammar. But he was using it in its original meaning in this fashion. So it is there. That's the story that explains for us why we are calling it nahu. And this is, by the way, an example of how words change. So you have the literal meaning and how the words, later they became very specific in a specific field. So that was during the time of the Sahaba. And mashallah, after that, people picked it up, and to the point we had more. For example, we have two big schools of Arabic grammar, one in Kufa, where ultimately Ali radiallahu anhu was, and one in Basra. Until to the moment we refer to the Kufi school and to the Basri school. Not only that, mashallah, they were so successful that a number of people who excelled in grammar, they are not ethnically Arab to begin with. And this is, in a sense, it's miraculous. So one of the greatest grammarians, in fact, people, when they say the grammarians, what they come to their mind is Sibawayh. Sibawayh is Persian. Meaning, mashallah, they excelled to the point that they become the leaders in the field. Another example, until now people study Al-Ajurumiyya. Now, who is Ibn Ajurum? Ibn Ajurum is from North Africa. So he is ethnically he's a Berber Amazigh. And it's his work that is still studied there now. So Ibn Saybawayh, that's from the east. Ibn Ajurum is from the west. So mashallah, they did such a good job that the people, the leaders in the field, and this is, I would repeat it, this is basically miraculous. People who are not coming from the language are not only mastering it, they are becoming the leaders. So perhaps it's part of making Quran easy is also that's an aspect that it's spread all over the Muslim world, and it's a systematic part of learning Islam. It's something that you go through now. And talking about that, people were aware of it. And I would like here to mention Imam Shafi'i radiallahu anh. So Imam Shafi'i, before he studied fiqh and so forth, he made sure that he excelled in Arabic. And and so Imam Shafi'i, so he's basically between 150 and 204. So he is in that transitional period, and he spent years with a Bedouin tribe. Naam, just getting familiar with them and with their language and so forth. Here, I would like to mention that by the year 150 to 200, people in the cities are no longer native speakers of Quranic Arabic. Okay, people outside the cities, they still had it for about a century or so. Okay, but after 300 and especially after 400, it's gone. Everybody, mashallah, has to study grammar. Everybody has to study Nahu. And inshallah, it's in that effort there is a lot of reward. And you are familiar yourself with the language of the Prophet ﷺ. Now, so since we talk about one Imam, we'll mention another Imam. So we'll mention Imam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu. So until now, there is a book that is taught in Nahu, not in Nahu, subhanAllah, in Sarf. In Sarf. And but who is the author? Some people said we don't know. Some people said no, it's Imam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu. So meaning the language is associated with the Imams of the Madahib. Obviously, as mentioned, associated with Sahaba, associated with the Prophet, associated with the Quran. So نعم خير. Now that's why here I will talk a little bit about how do we go about it when we are studying Arabic now. I already mentioned the track that if you go to colleges, that's what happens. But if you want to do it systematically well, which is how we do it in for example, at Darul Qasim. So what happens usually there? So obviously we will study Nahu, grammar, and we'll study it through how ultimately going back to the rules established by Sibawayh. Naam. And so we'll go through that way. Then, for example, we'll do it slightly a different way, just to give you a different perspective. So one of the books that we teach at Darul Qasim is Idharul Asrar and Al-Awamil, which is you're looking at the grammar in two different ways, so that you have a very comprehensive view. Now, of course, we study sarf, conjugation, but once you are done with those, we move to al-balagha, which is something not studied much, but which is really essential. But you do it once you are done with sarf al-nahu. And balagha basically teaches you that yes, you know grammar, you know morphology and conjugation, so you know how to put words together. But in balagha, you are looking at whole sentences and whole paragraphs, and basically you're studying three components: al-bayan, al-ma'ani, and al-badi'a. And basically you have a systematic understanding how the meanings shifts in whether you are using. First of all, you can tell whether you take something literally or not. Okay, because sometimes if you think you know the word, but if you take the literal meaning, it will be very misleading. In fact, here we had a quote that I might read. Now, for example, in Aqidah, so one of the imams of the Aqidah is called Imam Sanusi. Now, he gives a list of things that can mislead Aqidah. نعم. One of them, he said, الجهل بالأحكام العقلية وباللسان العربي وفن البيان. فن البيان. نعم. And he will give a number of examples. For example, he will talk about Isa alayhi salam in the Quran said وَرُوحٌ مِّنْهُ. نعم. He said, for example, this min, a spirit from God. This is a very rough translation. But if you don't understand it well, you can be misled. And he will tell you, okay, min, yes, in grammar will tell you it's harfu jar, but especially in balagha and so forth, it's not only harfu jar. It has a set of meanings. Let's say 8 meanings. If you plug the wrong meaning, you will get the wrong understanding. Okay. So he gave that example. He gives another example. He said, "Fi jambillah." So in the Quran, there is an expression of saying jambillah. Now it basically means that regarding Allah. But if you take the literal word jamb and you are literal about it, jambs mean side. Jamb means side. So if you are not familiar with how Arabic is used, although you know the word itself, if you are not familiar with the balagha, then potentially you will be misled. Now, so this is if you want to have to be a scholar and have an independent opinion as opposed to following other scholars. MashaAllah, if you are not a scholar, you follow other scholars, you're on the right path. But if you claim you have an opinion, you better do your homework. And it will take training for that. نعم. خير, inshallah. So to summarize, and I would like just to emphasize something that I said in the beginning. But because a number of people who are not native speakers, they have to know that Arabic. There is what's going on in Arabic is a phenomenon that sometimes in English you call diglossia, meaning that basically you have two languages, but the languages present itself in two forms in that society. There is a formal form, which is, for the lack of a better word, the classical Arabic, and there are the modern or the dialects. And in your mind, you have to know, yes, they are related. And it definitely helps that you know a dialect, but they are different. And if you don't do due diligence, you can be misled. So that's why systematic study of Arabic is a must if you want to be a alim. Now, not everybody can be a alim, or not everybody have to be a alim, but it's good. It's the more barakah, the more knowledge, the more reward. Now, so if you want to go on that path, and you should, now just be ready and be aware, most of all, that there are steps to be taken. That it's an academic study, and it needs patience, and you'll do it step by step, and inshallah Allah will make it easy. Allah made easy Quran to do dhikr, and inshallah Allah will make it easy for you to learn the language of his prophets. And the more you do it, the more reward you get. Just the learning process with that intention is inshallah a rewarding journey. And as you know, even if you don't understand Arabic, if you read Quran, even if you don't understand it, it's a ibadah, and you are rewarded for it. And so, inshallah, we'll open, inshallah, the floor for questions. That was a general introduction, and inshallah, we'll take it from there.
I have a question. I'm trying to formulate it in my brain.
Okay,
Jazakallah khair.
Barakallah. Thank you. Well, thank you for coming in this morning. It's a weekend, I understand. Barakallah fikum, and inshallah may Allah reward you and reward all of us.